As usual, I want to thank everyone for posting their questions and like to quickly add, when posting questions under other videos, rather than the one asking for questions, your questions could be overlooked. So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's begin. How did guys on the street react to famous mob movies and shows like Goodfellas and The Sopranos? To be honest, the only guy I heard speak about something like that was Big John when he said he argued with John Jr. in prison over watching The Sopranos. Did you ever deal with kids of made guys who pushed their luck and thought who they were? I've been in the company of a lot of my former friends' kids, and all of them was nothing but respectful, with Joey DiBenedetto's kids being the most respectful. Were you aware of mob guys having any business dealings with people outside of America and Italy? The person that asked this question's from Australia, and although there's many Calabrese Australians who have dealings with guys in the United States, I personally didn't know any. In relation to the induction, when you're asked if your loved one is on their deathbed, would you come? Are you aware of that ever happening? The answer is no, and may no one ever have to be put in that situation. Have you ever had any sit-downs or encounters with Sal Avellino? Was he present at your ceremony? I read that he gave up a lot of money to the administration to prevent himself from being shelved for taking a bad plea. Let me start by saying, do not believe what you read. There's a lot of garbage written that's 100% false. Sally Avellino was not at my induction, but I was in his company quite a few times, and I liked both him and his son Michael. It's true that he was shelved for taking a bad plea, which means admitting to Cosa Nostra or that you were a member, but he was subsequently taken off the shelf. Now that Anthony Senna is being paroled, will he be expected to resume his prior role as a made man at some point in the future with the Lucchese family, or will he be allowed to walk away from that life? Going to prison is not a pardon for being in the mob. Prior going to prison, Anthony Senna was a Lucchese member, and once he's 100% free, he'll still be a Lucchese member. The only consideration will be that he's on paper and won't be expected to report to anyone right away. Did you ever hear about a beef between higher-ranking members, like a consigliere and an underboss, within or amongst other families? And how was it solved? Is it true that meetings between administration members are more sophisticated than a sit-down between two soldiers? Any sit-down that can't be resolved by two members or their captains gets kicked up to the administrations. And obviously, those type of meetings are on a higher level where more precautions are taken when they meet. Who is allowed to make new members in a family? During a ceremony, does your sponsor say anything? Are they there? Who attends a ceremony? Besides a boss or his administration, anyone they permit can conduct a ceremony. Your captain is the guy who usually puts you up, and yes, he's there. During my ceremony, Big John only pricked my finger and said nothing. As to who attends, naturally, whoever's being inducted, the administration, which could be all, one, or two of them, captains whose crews the new members will be in, and sometimes people who are close to the new members. And in my case, Joey DiBenedetto was there. Are there certain guys with power that exceeds their rank? I've read before about guys like Scarpa and Tommy Karate refusing to show up to meetings and could play hardball with bosses because of their reputation and earning capability. Again, I warn people, be careful what you read. I can write an article about anything, and that doesn't mean it's factual. There's a lot of garbage out there. There are guys who have more influence, or as the saying goes, he who has the king's ear is king. As far as playing hardball with a boss, I don't believe that someone's disrespecting a boss, no matter how much money they make or what his reputation is. If a guy gets shelved and he decides he likes being out of things, can he refuse to come back if they take him off the shelf? When a member's put on a shelf, if a decision's made to take him off the shelf, that decision process doesn't include him. He's just told he's off the shelf and not asked if he still wants to be a member. Here's a question that had me laughing when I read it. How are beefs solved if it involves a boss and a lower ranked member? I'll tell you what, I'll give you 20 guesses and the first 19 don't count. The lower ranking member is shit out of luck. Have you ever heard of any made man that has an identical twin? I have. Blaze and Anthony Carrazzo are twins. Can an associate call for a sit-down against a made man, or does he have no option? An associate has to go to whoever he's with and bring the beef to him, but that doesn't mean there'll be a sit-down. If that member feels it's necessary, then he'll set an appointment up to meet with whoever it is the associate had a problem with. Not everything calls for a sit-down. In that life, diplomacy goes a long way. With RICO having such harsh punishments and sentences, will the mob eventually open the door to dealing drugs? I think you answered that in the first part of your question. The answer is no, not officially. Could you still be a member of that life if you stop making any sort of illegal income on the street? I guess that depends on who your captain is and what kind of envelopes you're handing in. This person wanted to know where the last stop of kicking up is. It's a simple answer. That would be the boss and his administration. What did guys in the life think of people who were fascinated with the mob life? Did they find it funny or weird? Personally, I've seen people exhibit that fascination on all levels. Sometimes it was over the top. I remember Joey DiBenedetto commenting on how the young guys in Howard Beach would go out of their way just to say hello, and it could become annoying at times. We were able to tell if a guy came over to say hello because he wanted to be seen saying hello. So I guess it could be viewed as both funny and weird. Again, let me quickly mention the Super Thanks icon, which can be found underneath this video by clicking on the 3-dot drop-down for anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, and thank you. What does the next 10, 20 years look like for the American mafia? For starters, a good picture of what the mob's future looks like was recently seen by the captains who now threaten and assault restaurant owners for money. Why is this happening? Because the quality of people that are being inducted are useless. When you think you're going to turn businessmen into wise guys, you're mistaken. For example, newly inducted Lucchese members, Butch Arpino and Danny Campo, both businessmen who absolutely never used a pistol, represent the decline of the mob. Danny was someone Patty DeLaRosa, who was his childhood friend, described as a punk who never lifted his hands. So why straighten guys like this out? Which is a forecast of the mob's future over the next 10, 20 years. From the mob's onset till present day, the rules fell to the wayside, and old-timers are mostly all gone, replaced by a new generation of wise guys, all of whom are rule breakers. I'm not even going to mention the lack of loyalty, but when you take away the respect and fear that people once had for the mob, you're left with a watered-down organization, a street gang. And I'll end with the famous words of Paulie Bang Bang Vella, who was away with me. You can't turn an Irish setter into a Doberman pinscher.